meeting to order. And Rob, ask you if you would please lead us in the.
Yes, sir. If everyone would please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Rob, thank you. Jared, looks like it's time for a roll call.
Yes, sir. Barb Barker. Tammy Blank.
Here.
Cinda Brode.
Here.
Julia Tremarchi Kukuro.
Present.
Tom Harley.
Here.
Mr. Kerr.
Present.
Mrs. Leeper.
Present.
Mrs. Lowry.
Present.
Mr. Schroed.
Here. Okay, thanks, Jared. I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. Again, we're doing this virtually. Hopefully one of these days we'll get back to our having regular meetings, but for now, we're erring on the side of caution. I have no board president message tonight. Jared, have we anybody that signed up for public comment?
Nobody signed up, sir.
Okay, any of the representatives from IAEA, ASME, SGA, or Stuka, or anybody present tonight? Nothing heard. Mike, it looks like it's your turn. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll make my comments brief tonight. One, I just want to thank the board and the public and all of our families for doing such a great job adhering to our health and safety plan. I know I inundated our families with a lot of correspondences over the past several days, but our goal is not to inundate them. Our goal is to keep them aware and informed of what's happening in district, as well as our decision making that we're using moving forward. Additionally, I'd like to recognize the high school, Hassan Ali and Jason Zhang, for their anonymous student payment fund, the ASAP fund. It's now raised over close to $7,000, and this fund is designed to work with the guidance counselors in order to help students who may be in some need of financial support. The one thing that pandemic really brought a light on is to a lot of people out there who may need help and may need support, and we have to applaud these kids, these leaders, for doing this and making this available for students who need it. So I just wanted to publicly recognize them. In the future, I hopefully bring them to a committee meeting or to a board meeting to be recognized formally. As you know, they came to us last February, I believe, and spoke to the board about this initiative, and the board approved it. And I think it's just remarkable the work they've done in such a little amount of time. And I'd also like to thank Ms. Steve, the teacher, but also Jared Cronauer for working with them to get the GoFundMe page up and running. They've done a great job. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay, Mike. Well, first of all, I would say if you ever decided to have a career change, you or your staff, you could all be jugglers, because over the last several days, a lot of the folks don't know or don't understand all of the behind the scenes work that you guys have done working with the Department of Health and Department of Education to keep this system functioning, albeit with some issues related to COVID, but you guys have really done a great job in keeping the ship headed on a straight line, and I thank you for that. Okay, I don't think Ron's on the line tonight. There are no presentations. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes in the agenda, please?
I move that we approve the minutes in the agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. We'll vote in the negative. Anybody objecting to the minutes or the agenda, please say nay or no at this time. Chair assumes unanimous approval. Next item are board reports. Uta, Indiana County Technology Center.
We meet tomorrow, so I don't have a report, but I'll have a report next meeting.
We'll look forward to that. And Barb is absent tonight. Mike, is there anything from the IU that we need to be brought up to speed on?
I don't believe so, sir.
Okay, Tom, how about a extra curricular and academic committee?
We had no meeting, Walter, and for some reason we have no motions. Is that true, Mike? I hardly know how to act.
I think that's, yes, sir. It should be correct, sir.
Moving on, Walter.
Maybe we'll finish on time. Okay, Uta, looks like policy and personnel, your turn.
Okay, we didn't have a committee meeting before this meeting. We reported on that at the last meeting. So I move that based on the recommendation of the administration, the board approves the nurse sub list as submitted.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any reason, Uta, we didn't take all these together? Or do you want to keep them separate?
I can only see two, so I don't know how many we have. Do we only have those two, Mike?
No, you have several. It goes up to, believe, 6.7 or 6.6, Ms. Lowry.
Okay.
Do you want me to make these motions?
Sure.
Okay. 6.2 is the sub list. 6.3 is the appointment of the custodian, Michael Hockenberry, on October 27, 2020, at the hour rate of $12 an hour, 90-day probation period. Receiving updated clearance to be approved. 6.4 is a substitute incentive program that the board approves offering substitute teachers and paraeducators employed through Kelly Services an incentive of $225 as a substitute works 10 days a month to help the substitute shortage during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Tom, that's one. Hold on, that's 125.
I'm sorry, that is what it
You
says.
said a different number.
Okay. The incentive can be canceled at any time by the district. 6.5 is the leave of absence request. At the request for a leave of absence submitted by employee number 1255 in accordance with Article 11 of Section 2 of the collective bargaining agreement beginning December 11, 2020, after the use of all but 5 sick days and 4 personal days and continuing until March 30th, 2021 be approved. And 6.6 is the resignation of custodian. The board accepts with regret the letter of resignation from Kevin Wolford, custodian effective October 22nd, 2020 due to other employment, and authorizes the administration to post and advertise an interview for this position. That's all.
Thank you, Tom.
And Carrie just seconded all those motions. Is there any questions, comments, or discussion on any of those? Nothing heard. Again, we'll vote in the negative. Anybody that wishes to vote no, please say nay or no at this point. Hearing nothing, the chair assumes unanimous consent or unanimous approval by the members present. Okay, looks like we're down to buildings, grounds, and transportation. Terry, it's your turn.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schroth. We did have a Building Grounds Transportation Committee meeting last Monday, October 13th. There was one agenda item that was discussed, and that was the Eisenhower Elementary Entranceway and modular classroom. We did build consensus among the committee and attendees that we would look at options of what could possibly be done with both the entranceway and the modular classroom, and there's a motion on tonight's agenda related to that. We had 6 non-agenda items. The first one was the East Pike entranceway update. Mr. Trout gave an update of that project. It is a little bit behind. He was satisfied with everything that's been done so far, and it is moving forward. It's all under roof and closed in, so we're good there. He gave an update on the high school life skills room and the chairlift project. Again, that project is nearly done. There's a few punch list items with both of those to finish up, but he didn't see any problems there. There was discussion of future ESCO projects, and what came out of that, we had asked Mr. Kronauer to contact a couple ESCO consultants to see if there's opportunities within the district to do some future ESCO projects. We then discussed the replacement of the East Pike roof. Sounds like we built consensus there that definitely the roof needs replaced. So Mr. Trout's going to move forward with looking at securing bids for that project. Then we briefly discussed needlepoint bipolar ionization. It's you add that into your ventilating system to possibly kill the virus. So again, Mr. Trout is looking at that, and he's going to have information for us at the next committee meeting on cost to do that, and then recommendations of where that could possibly be done within our schools. And then we talked about the deferred maintenance list. The administration had put together a very boiled down list. We were only looking at any projects that absolutely needed maintenance done on them or were a security related topic. So there was a very short list there that we went over. That's all with that.
I think you have the one motion then, Terry.
Yeah, and what I'd like to do there, Mr. Stroth, is revise that motion, and I'll read it of how I'd like to revise it. The board asks the administration to obtain an estimate for a proposal from Buchert Horn Architects to develop conceptual options for a revised entrance and the possible replacement of the modular classrooms at Eisenhower Elementary School at a cost not to exceed $15,000.
Second.
Okay, Terry, do you have that in a digital form that you can send to Mike or Jared so that they can, update the minutes when they go to put that forward?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
Any questions, comments, or discussion on the motion on the table?
the one thing I will say, Walter, is as we talked at last week's committee meeting, this doesn't mean that we're doing a project there. We're just moving to the first step of looking at options of what can be done there. So wanted to be clear with that.
Okay, and then I believe Julia's got her report in a little bit, but we did discuss this at length during the Audit and Finance Committee as well. Are there any other questions, comments, or discussions, please?
Mr. President, the Indiana Gazette's asking, so it's 15,000. I think that's what his question just was on the motion, 15,000.
Yeah, yes, that's what I read, Julia.
Yeah, I think this is yes, that is correct. I think this is a good motion. I'm particularly thinking we need to do some work at Eisenhower Elementary for a lot of reasons, but not the least of which is for sound safety and security. And I think we need to get ourselves oriented on exactly what we can do and what we might be able to afford. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, nothing heard. In this case, let's all go ahead and vote for this in the chat room, if you would, please. Okay, it looks like at this point we have unanimous approval of board members present. I think that concludes Buildings and Grounds. Julia, you're up with the Finance Committee report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Yes, we did have a meeting tonight. It was a long meeting, and it was, I think, a very productive meeting. The nicest thing about the report is that Jared told us that our preliminary numbers have held. So we're still looking at about with our audit work. So it still looks like we have about a $1.4 million surplus. That led us into a discussion about whether or not we should be trying to reserve money right now for some very important capital projects in the reserve fund. So we had a thorough discussion. The numbers ranged anywhere from $1.5 million, $800,000 to $1.5 million. And after a lot of thought and discussion, we have a motion on the table tonight that I'll be getting to in a minute. We also spoke about where we are with the general fund. So it looks like as of 6:30, I think, Jared, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're close to $9 million. Is that correct, Jared?
Yes, ma'am. That's prior to the transfer.
Yeah, prior to the transfer. So, we've had some real relief on the budget, particularly with the refinance of those two debts, the payoff of two bonds. So we were trying to use those monies intelligently. And of course, the East Pike roof is first and foremost in our minds. So that was a good discussion. We also talked about the opportunity to refinance some of our current debt, some portions of, and again, Jared, I think I wrote this down correctly, 2012 bond, 2013 and 2015. Yeah. So the committee is going to invite Jamie Doyle in to talk to us about what we might save. Did I get that right, Jared?
Yes, ma'am, you did.
Okay. And then finally tonight, we talked about starting a petty cash account. I'm going to let Jared talk about it a little bit more. I think it's terrific. I think these students have been in the newspaper. And I'm really pleased that the board's able to approve a motion tonight, hopefully. So, Jared, do you want to tell us just briefly about what this petty account is all about, petty cash account?
Yeah, the petty cash account, if the board chooses to create it tonight, will be used for the new student activities fund, which is called ASAP, which is just meant to get emergency, whether it's monetary, whether it's clothing, food, anything that students may need at the high school to help them out in an emergency situation. And all the money is being raised by students, whether it's through the GoFundMe page that two students created, whether it's funds sent directly to the high school for it. But the students, two students have led the project, and it was their kind of brainchild that they've created to really help out their fellow students any way that they possibly can, with the students raising the money, and then either the guidance counselors or principals or other teachers making recommendations, as well as students, as to which students need help. No student will ever know which students got helped. That will be kept confidential between the teachers and administration at the high school. But again, I can't stress enough that it really is a student-based run fundraiser. The students are raising all the money to help out their fellow students. At this point, they've raised over $7,000, which is amazing, just in really the 2-week period that they have really opened up the fundraising for this project. This project was brought up last winter, really, but due to COVID was kind of put on hold, and we've now gotten it started again here in the fall, and it's kind of really hit the ground running and has done amazing things over the past 2 weeks. And the students are anxious to actually take that funding to help their fellow students. So this $200 will just give the administration and the students an avenue to help other students if cash is what they need. But that will be decided between the guidance counselors and the administration at the high school itself when the cash is needed.
Okay, thank you. I think it's tremendous. I mean, and I hope that we can have the students come back into the full board and give us a report on how they're doing. It's entrepreneurial in nature, and for a small investment on our part, which really isn't an investment, but for an assistance, we're going to get, I think, a lot of bang for our buck in terms of how well they've done with this. So I'm willing to invest $200. So that sort of concludes, Walter, what we talked about at the committee meeting. So the first motion tonight is number 8.2. So I'd like to move that the board approves a transfer in the amount of $950,000 from the general fund to the capital reserve fund, effective as of June 30th of 2020.
Second.
Okay, moved in second. Julia, would you like to comment on this, or any other board members? If Julia doesn't have a comment on to why the transfer is being proposed tonight.
I'll just lead off and say I very much support this. We've been wanting to do this for a long time, and we need to do it.
Okay.
I'll just say that I think we all know that the deferred maintenance list is not getting shorter. It's growing each year. And the past couple of years, we've not been able to put, I'm not sure if we put any money in, Jared, maybe you'd know for sure off the top of your head, but we've not put what we've wanted to in. So we had an opportunity here. The administration's done a tremendous job to close out the last fiscal year. So we saw an opportunity here to move some of these funds. Thanks.
Okay, anybody else? Questions, comments, or further discussion on 8.2? Nothing heard. Jared, let's do a roll call on this one.
Tammy Blank,
Yes.
Cinda Brode,
Yes.
Juliet Markey Kukuro,
Yes.
Tom Harley,
Yes.
Mr. Kerr,
Yes.
Mrs. Leeper,
Yes.
Mrs. Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Schroed.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, thank you, Jared. Okay, Julia, I think you have one other in 8.3.
Yeah, Mr. President, I move that the board approves a petty cash account for the ASAP group in the amount of $200 for student activities at the high school.
Second.
Okay, moved in second. Any further questions, comments, or discussion on 8.3? Nothing heard. We'll vote for this in the negative. If you do oppose this, please say no or nay at this point. Nothing heard. The chair assumes unanimous approval by those board members present. Okay, Randy, if you could scroll down to the next items. That brings us down to closing. Do we have any public comment on agenda items? Nothing heard. We had some enclosures this evening. We also had an executive session to discuss legal and personnel issues. There will be a singular regular board meeting on November the 16th at 7 p.m. to discuss general purposes. Please note that there will only be one board meeting on in November on the third Monday of the month. We will also have academic, policy, personnel, buildings, grounds, and transportation on November 2nd, 9th, and the 16th, respectively. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Second.
Okay, we'll vote for this in the negative again. Anybody objecting, please say no or not, nay at this point. Nothing heard. We stand adjourned. Thank you all for coming this evening.
Thank you, Walter.